Hey guys, it's Udi, and today let's have a look at SSD5. That's Steven Slate Drums 5. And what got me to get this is really me trying to learn how to drum. And I got my Alessis Crimson 2 electric drum kit, and I really wanted to have something that sounds good. The onboard sounds were pretty crap. And anyway, learning to play drums with Cubase or whatever DAW is much more effective and easy because I can program the drums, I can try out new things, I can program the entire songs and learn how to play. So said that, the Cubase does have very good drums built in. We have the groove agent and we have the acoustic agent there, and it sounds really good. Only problem for me was the hi-hats and the pedals because they didn't map good, and I really wanted to have something that works out of the box, and that's what I have here. That's Steven Slate drums. And also, of course, I heard a lot about Steven Slate drums and really wanted to try them out for myself. So let's get to it. I'll show you what's going on here. I'll try and do a couple of videos, or maybe more, and I'll show you how I connect them to my electronic drum kit later on. And so let's just dive in. Now, before we start, just a quick ask from me to you. If you like the videos, if you enjoy what I have on my YouTube channel, subscribe, and so you get updated whenever I upload new stuff. That's pretty much it. And you can follow me on Facebook and whatever. I have the links in the video description. Well, so let's get started. SSD5 comes with a lot of kits, a lot of options for you. You have the library here, you have Classic, Deluxe 1, 2, and you can save your own. And you can also buy additional libraries, from Steven Slate. Now, each of these library, for example, the classic, you see classic rock, metal, vintage, and you have the actual kits here. And when you just select any, let's just take the classic metal and double click, you'll see you'll see the instrument load. Now, what is important to understand, this is not just straight samples for each instrument here. Each instrument was sampled multiple times with different velocities and different locations, right? Because when we're playing drums, we're not always hitting the instrument, the snare, whatever. We don't hit it at the same place at the same velocity. And when you're programming drum kits, then you want to have the human touch here. You want to have something that is close enough to a real drummer, and this is what we have here. So each of these instruments were, it was sampled multiple times. It was recorded with different microphones. So let me show you. When you select the snare here, if you go to edit instrument, you see that you have all kinds of articulations, and also um, you have microphones. Now, if I select something else, you'll see that we have different microphones and so on. But let's take the Deluxe 2 and get the alternative kit here and let it load. You'll see that we have more mic options here. We have up to 5 different micings. So this is pretty cool. It means that we have real quality recording, real ability to shape the sounds the way we want them using the mixer then later. And I'll show you that. So back to our library. We have our kits. That's pretty easy and straightforward, and you can select whatever, listen to it. But you can also go to instrument. And here you have all these libraries, and then you have the actual the actual sampled instruments. So let's see. I can go to electronic and then have a kick and just a kick boom, and I can drag that on top of the instrument. And what will happen is we'll actually layering that kick over. If I go to wherever, let's take a snare, and then I'll just take one of these, and I can also drop it on these empty slots here. And you see it's loading. And let's play the part here. And you can see it is being layered. Right, you can see it is being layered over. So now just quick something here. You see this button here, that's the audition. You don't have to have it on all the time. Very cool. So that's the basic stuff, right? So out of the box, you can use that. But what is important to understand is that these parts are all, I mean, all these instruments are all mapped. And if I go here to the mappings, you can see all the MIDI notes and how they translate to the different instruments, right? So this is how it's done. And so the fact is that each electronic kit, if you look at the eDrums here, they all have different mapping. And you can do it manually, and you can just read the manual for your eDrums or the manual for whatever pads you're using, and then map those. So you can click that instrument here and just drag it over any of these notes, and it will be mapped. But you can also go and load a preset. And if you click this load preset, you'll see that we have all kinds of pre-configured presets, and I'm using the Alesis Strike, which matches my Alesis Crimson 2. And so that's why it really works well for me. We can also have input converter and kit mapping here. So these two are, assigned to that mapping thing here. So when you select mapping, then you'll see kit mapping and input converter, which can convert whatever note into whatever other note that you're using. So usually it's 1-to-1, and you'll see, for example, C sharp 1 is mapped to C sharp 1 here. And this is you can see that that's the additional snare that I added before. Okay, so it's also mapped to the C sharp 1, but that's the kit mapping here. And you can play with that. You can just, select and move that here. So I'm not going to save that. I'm not, I don't want to mess. Let's go back to the construction kit and go to instead of instruments, go to kits, double click, and we're loading that specific kit. Now, before I'm moving on to editing instruments, mixing, and so on, so let's have a quick look at the settings. So settings. First of all, you have the plugin version that's here, and you see that it's 64 bits, of course. And we have two options for seeing how the kit is laid out. We have the kit view and we have the cell view. Now, if you go to the construction kit here, you'll see that we have a visual representation of the actual drums here. But if I go back to settings and select cell and go to the construction kit, you'll see the actual cells. And I can, again, go to instrument, select whatever, and just place it here. It will load, and then I can map it and use it. And as you can see, I'm clicking and auditioning those instruments. Cool. So let's go back to settings, and we have the base directory for our library, and read the manual when you're installing the plugin. Then they explain exactly what to do here. You can also add licenses for additional libraries that you can buy. Drum kit detail. So as I said, each drum kit was each instrument was recorded multiple times, the velocities, round robins, and so on. So you can have different details, and that will affect the load time and the memory that is being used. So if I go back to low here and go to the construction kit, double click, it will load, and going to the settings, you'll see that I'll be using less memory. So that's the idea here. Let me go to the construction kit. Let's double click, and going to settings, you'll see that that's way lower memory usage, right? So going back to full resampling quality, if your DAW uses different sampling than 44 kilohertz, then the plugin will have to convert the samples, and that means that we can have different qualities here. And so I'm using the maximum. No reason to do otherwise. Again, it will affect your CPU usage. This streaming, I think that's obsolete, right? Because it really relates to RAM, to memory. If you have not enough memory, then you might want to stream those samples as you go, which will probably create some latency. So I don't recommend using this streaming. Respecting the display scaling here, and overall master volume and ambient mic auditioning levels. So that's the settings in a nutshell. Now let's go back to the construction kit. Again, I like to see everything in the kit view, so let's do that. And now next, let's have a look at editing an instrument. Now, when you click this, you'll see that you have a whole bunch of things going on here. Don't be overwhelmed here. So first of all, we have the instrument, and we can just select those. And now, if you want to audition the snare or whatever instrument in different velocities, just click on this image. Right, from bottom to the top, and also you have different articulations, and that will work from left to right. So and you have the volume here. Of course, you also have the master volume. You have tuning, phase, and you can change that according to whatever you want. You can just tune the kit to your likings. What else? Microphones. So the snare or whatever instrument we're playing here was recorded using different microphones, and these microphones are then routed to different channels, and they have their own volume panning. So if you let's jump to the mixer here, and you'll see that we have the snare top, bottom, and so on. So all these mics are routed here, and eventually they're going out to output one. So that means that in your DAW, in your host software, everything will go to the same channel. You can program the plugin to use different channels, and in that case, you'll be having different channels here. In my case, in Cubase, and maybe I'll show that in a different video. But for now, let's keep it. What else? So each of these channels here has its own volume, right? Panning, solo, mute. So if I can just play the groove here. and I can just mix the kick to my likings. Okay, so really mixing each part or each instrument individually, and then mix them all together, whatever works for you. And so that's the mixer in a nutshell. Now, if you want to go deeper than that, then you can affect the dynamics, the velocities, velocity curve. Velocity curve means that when I have my MIDI notes or when I'm playing my E drums, if I hit the note in a certain velocity, it will translate in the plugin to the same velocity. That's when we're on 50. But if I'm changing that, then it will be in respect to that ratio. So if I hit 50, I will actually get much more than that when I'm having the velocity curves up, and down will be otherwise. So the quiet notes will be quieter, and so on. And then the dynamics will affect the overall dynamics of my instrument here. And what else? We have also range. If I'm narrowing the range, then it will all translate. So quiet notes and loud notes will translate differently, and that will also affect the dynamics in a way. Some other stuff that we have here is the ADSR, is the envelopes for each instrument and each mic here, and we can link them or we can have them individually. And again, if you're not sure what an ADSR or envelope is, then I suggest you check it out, learn. It basically affects the way the sound translates over time. So the attack is the amount of time in milliseconds, in this case, that it will take the sound to reach its maximum level. So if we're at 0, then it means that the sample will play immediately at its highest velocity or recorded velocity. If I'm shifting that, it will take, for example, 70 milliseconds to reach the maximum. And then we have some more options here. For example, release will be how much time would it take for the sound to decay, to just dissolve. Sustained it's the sustained level, and decay will be the amount of time that it will take the sound to just reach its sustained level. So I'm not going into that, and there are all kinds of options here, and so I really don't want to confuse you guys. So that's the ADSR. And so what else we have here in our mixer? Well, we can add an auxiliary channels. So let me do that. I'm adding a new channel here. And if you go all the way to the right, you'll see that aux. And what I can do with this is, for example, I can take the kick. For example, let's have the kick here, and I can go and route it. Instead of out 1, I can route it to my aux here. Right, so I can group different instruments into auxiliary channels and then mix them together or handle them as one unit. So play with that. Other than that, you can see that we have special channels like overhead, room B, and SLR. Well, the SLR is basically the bleeding. So when you're playing real kit and you're miking your snare, most likely you'll get some bleeds from the toms and from the kick going into the snare mic, and then usually it's a kind of a problem, but it's a kind of an ambient sound that comes naturally into recordings. So you can play with that as well. So let's just let's hear that. right, so that's the basic idea. Next, let's have a look at the grooves. So what are the grooves? Well, it's basically a library of MIDI files or MIDI parts that you can use and just as a basic starting point, or maybe just build a complete song. So here you see that I have already using these MIDI samples here. I can delete that, can select whatever and drag and drop it here, and let's hear it. And I can have other parts. Well, you get the idea. What else? So let's have a quick run here. So that's the construction kit, and we have the instruments and the kits. We have edit instrument, and we can just shape the micings and sounds for each of the instruments. We have a mixer, which is the bottom the bottom panel here. Then we have our mapping, and we have kit mapping and input converter. And what important here is that we also have MIDI CC, MIDI control. And for me, that was important because I really wanted to have something to control the hi-hat pedal. And you can see that it's mapped to CC4, which is the standard. Pretty cool. And you can play with that as well. Something else that I've missed before is the snare mode. We have a couple of modes here. We have the classic and the rim shot. So it's really up to you. You have to listen and decide which mode is really the one that you're looking for. And then grooves, we covered that. Settings, we covered that. And finally, we have clear kit here and save kit. So I can clear the kit. Yeah, let's clear that. Go back to construction kit. You see it's all empty. So what I can do now is I can go to the instruments and just select, for example, a kick, drop it here, go to the snare, drop it here. Well, I want to audition this one. I'll take that one as well, and so on. So I can go to, let's see, Deluxe 2, Toms, and just drop this one here, and this one here, and this one here. And basically build my own kit. And then eventually I can just save the kit here, save it, and that's it. So if I'm going back to kits, going to user, you'll see that I have a new kit here, and I can load it whenever I want to. I think we covered pretty much everything. Of course, well, it's up to you to play with that and learn a little bit more about Steven Slate drums. I think what I'll do next is I'll make a video showing you how I'm connecting my eDrums and using them with this plugin. So I hope that was good for you, that was informative, and you like it. If you like it, then don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions or anything, any comments, let me know. Put a comment below the video. And again, really happy to do these videos. So follow me also in Facebook and wherever. And I'll see you in the next video. And what I'll do now is I'll just get some grooves going and let you listen. So that's it for now. Thanks.